The idea of the United States taking Greenland is totally no sense. Yes, Greenland, the massive icy island between the Arctic and Atlantic, mostly covered in ice, home to less than 100,000 people. I know some of you have seen headlines about it, especially with the current buzz around global tensions, but let me break it down for you. This is not just a bad idea. It's one of the dumbest geopolitical moves anyone could propose, and yet people seriously discuss it. Let's start with the first claim you hear. We need Greenland for defense. There are Chinese and Russian ships everywhere. Okay, let's unpack that. First of all, Russia's navy has been in decline for decades. Yes, the Arctic fleet is their best, but compared to what it was 20 or 30 years ago, it's basically a shadow. The Ukrainian war has made things even worse for them. They've lost ships, technology, and logistical capability. Their ability to project power into the North Atlantic is essentially gone. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom already has naval bases in places that actually matter strategically. If your goal is to counter Russian influence in the North Atlantic, Greenland isn't the magic solution people think it is. And here's a critical point. Building military bases in Greenland is absurdly difficult. Roughly 80% of Greenland is under a permanent ice cap. Another 5% is moving glaciers. The rest? It's basically an Aleutian-style climate with even harsher winters. Ports? Almost non-existent. Infrastructure? Minimal. You can't just park ships anywhere and call it a base. If the US tried to militarize Greenland, it would mean constructing floating platforms or extremely costly Arctic facilities to support naval operations. Think of it like trying to build a military base in Antarctica, except colder, more remote, and with zero population infrastructure to help you. And for what? Some people say, if we control Greenland, we can control Arctic shipping routes between Asia and North America. Technically, sure, but practically, you're looking at $1 trillion investment for infrastructure that only moves global trade routes slightly. And what does that accomplish? Encouraging China to ship more goods to the US? That's a terrible value proposition. It's like paying a fortune to make something slightly more convenient that you don't actually need. Hi, I'm Eric. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your name and city in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me make more interesting content. Now, let's get back to the topic. Now, let's talk about the mining argument. Greenland supposedly has rare earths, and some people are convinced it's a gold mine waiting to be tapped. Let me be clear, that's mostly speculation. No one has done proper, large-scale prospecting there yet. Even if the most extreme predictions of global warming come true, 80% of Greenland will remain under ice this century. Rare earths are not just lying around on the surface. They're a byproduct of massive mining operations that need huge infrastructure, processing plants, transport networks, worker housing, and energy sources. Greenland doesn't have any of that. And with a population of under 100,000, no one lives near the areas that might even have minerals. You'd literally be building entire cities and industrial zones in the middle of an ice sheet. The cost? Trillions. The payoff? Questionable at best. And here's another layer people often overlook. The US doesn't need to take Greenland to get strategic or economic advantages there. Denmark, Greenland's sovereign nation, is one of America's closest and most loyal allies. During the Cold War, the US had dozens of facilities scattered across Greenland. Today, we only maintain the Thule Air Base, and it's enough. Denmark is happy to collaborate on defense, military projects, and research. We already get what we need without creating a diplomatic nightmare by trying to claim a foreign territory. Let's pause for a moment and consider alliances. If the US were to annex Greenland, what message would that send to Europe? To the rest of the world? It would destroy trust, especially with Denmark, one of our most steadfast allies. Denmark is reliable, cooperative, and strategically placed right where the North Sea meets the Baltic. They've kept Russia in check for decades without fanfare. Take that away, and suddenly the US is isolated in Europe, forced to manage projects and conflicts on its own. History has shown what happens when the US tries to go it alone in Europe. Massive costs, military casualties, and prolonged conflicts. Let's break down the numbers here. To militarize Greenland in any meaningful way, you're looking at trillions of dollars in investment. Floating platforms, Arctic-ready facilities, airfields, ports, energy infrastructure, you name it. Then there's the cost of maintaining those installations in one of the harshest climates on Earth. And for mining, even if Greenland had significant rare earth deposits, extracting them would be far more expensive than mining elsewhere. Why spend trillions to build infrastructure from scratch in the ice when similar resources exist elsewhere at a fraction of the cost? The strategic argument also falls apart under scrutiny. Sure, controlling Greenland gives you geographic advantage in the Arctic, but what exactly would you gain militarily? The US already has radar coverage, satellite monitoring, and intelligence assets to keep tabs on potential threats. Controlling the land itself doesn't magically amplify your ability to respond. Meanwhile, you risk alienating allies, overextending logistics, and tying up resources that could be used more effectively elsewhere. Now let's talk political optics. If the US forcibly annexed Greenland, it would send a shockwave through international relations. Alliances are not just agreements, they are built on trust and mutual benefit. Denmark has been a reliable partner for decades. It's not France, which occasionally flexes for its own agenda, or Australia, which is remote from European conflicts. Denmark has been a stabilizing force in the North Atlantic. Destroy that relationship, and suddenly the US is perceived as a global aggressor rather than a strategic ally. And once that happens, other nations might rethink cooperation, trade, and military partnerships. Isolation becomes very real. Finally, let's address the prestige argument. Some suggest that controlling Greenland would demonstrate American strength. But let's be honest. Strength isn't about grabbing territories that no one needs and risking alliances. Real geopolitical strength is influence, intelligence, diplomacy, and effective military strategy. All of that can be achieved without annexing a frozen island 1,500 miles away from the US mainland. So, to summarize, defense, already covered by NATO allies and satellite intelligence. Russia's navy is weak, China is far away. Military projection, impossible without a trillion-dollar infrastructure nightmare in frozen wastelands. Shipping control, trillions to gain marginal Arctic route influence. Mining, mostly speculative, massively expensive, and logistically insane. Alliances, risk destroying decades of trust with one of the US's most loyal allies. Greenland is not a prize waiting for the US to claim. It's a strategic distraction, an expensive headache, and a diplomatic landmine. And the reality is simple. The US already has everything it needs there thanks to Denmark. There is literally no tangible benefit to taking Greenland, only risks. Trillions of dollars, strained alliances, and unnecessary exposure to harsh environments. So the next time someone tells you the US needs Greenland, remember this. It's one of the worst ideas anyone has floated in decades. Defense, military, mining, shipping, all of it falls apart under scrutiny. And the cost? Astronomical. The payoff? Minimal. The political fallout? Disastrous. If we want real strategic advantage, we focus on alliances, intelligence, technology, and smart investments, not frozen land grabs that belong to someone else. In short, Greenland isn't a prize, it's a trap. And trying to control it would do far more harm than good.